fellow fellows and fellow educators. This is Professor Diamond Skinner Williams here to do a brief game share. So here we've got the rubric up. Thank you, Sarah, for using your rubric. Pretty straightforward, right? It has to be on time. So this presentation is before, or on the due date, right? So I'll get that marked. I shared prerequisite skills needed. I share opportunities for game teaching. Share possible progress monitoring and options. I will provide practice on a shared related objective. We will talk about whether or not the time matches developmentally and if it's creative and fun, right? So it's either you do it or you don't. Okay, let's jump into it. This template is the PowerPoint that I used for this game. So this game is pre-made, but I've made it more academic and suited it for my students. So we're going over the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. Their role is it's a mock trial, and they will be playing the role of a judge. And we'll be using the Do I Have a Right game to decide which scenarios will be yours. We have our Common Core standards here, right? So I marked that off, so you can pause and read those if you would like. And then the adults in the room for the scenario were to ask a question. So this is kind of a follow-up and extension. We use the game to craft arguments, and the students have to basically perform this live, and their verbal assessment counts. And the judges decide if you win or lose the case, so speak and write well. And here is the example that I created for them, right? So the text that is in black for the RA, the C, and the E is the template. The blue here is from the game. That's something the students will have to produce. The highlighted answer here is basically just text evidence. And then finally, the blue here is your own words, right? So we're using a race paragraph, restate answer, cite, explain. Restate answer, Your Honor, my client should be found not guilty because. In these scenarios, they're always defending someone for not being guilty, right? We're not playing the prosecutor here. We're defending someone using evidence, which is also a great strategy for arguments. According to the Sixth Amendment, students are going to fill in this blank, but note there are 10 amendments. At this point, I had about 6 students in the class, give or take, So each student was assigned a specific amendment or two to them that they were going to master. And I'll show you that as we get into the other ones. And then they have to restate what the amendment says. There's resources in the game. There's resources in the room that also remind them of what the amendments mean and what they stand for. Here, right, is a blank template where I'm going to insert their case because it's particular for each student. Like I said, they have different cases that they're going to, and amendments that they're going to master. And then finally, they have the template here where they're going to input. And so I add some more support here, explain what happened in the case. The blanks for the amendment and quotations, I put that there for them, right? On a different level of student, I might not put that at all. I would just ask them to write their argument. And then finally, this proves they should be found innocent because use your own words to sound very convincing. Students always need reminders, in my experience, to use their own words, even when they've been practicing a strategy multiple times. Before we get to the game, I want to go here to the template so you could see how these things are going to be filled in, right? So here is Maurice's work, and my example is still there, but here's his scenario. So we played the game in class. As soon as we found a scenario that matched, I would ask the student, do you want to argue this case? And if I really wanted them to pick it, I'm a teacher, I'm an adult. I can be persuasive to let them know that this is the one that they need to choose. I screenshot the game, so that you see here is the game, and then I put it into the PowerPoint. So his amendment, one of the amendments that he mastered was Amendment 2. This wasn't technically the one that he was given, but as an 8th grader and as someone who was just very verbal and really understood this stuff, I added on more. I was also particular about which amendments I gave which students. So he was focusing on the Second Amendment. That was one of the ones that he had mastered. And here's the question. In the game, we would click through, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then here, he has to fill in his argument. Your Honor, my client should be found not guilty because my client has rights to own guns/firearms. According to the Second Amendment, people have the right to own and keep firearms. So this is all his work, his fun. This proves they should be found innocent because not only do they have the right to own and keep firearms, but also to stay safe, right? So I'd love it if he explained more in his own words, but when he argues verbally, he just goes off. It's amazing and beautiful. His second one was about to have a trial, right? And so this is the Sixth Amendment that he also mastered. That Americans are guaranteed the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. He wrote, "This proves they should be found innocent because she was arrested 5 years ago and she still did not have a trial, and the jury does not have to move it longer," right? No punctuation, a little bit confusing, but this is his chance at writing. So this other student, the ones that he mastered, sorry about that, the ones that he mastered included his scenario there. And also, one of the reasons we picked this one is because we all agree that this woman kind of looked like the student's grandmother, who we all love. So that was fun. As you see, he didn't have the highlights here. They originally there, he took them off, which is fine, but I can still see that this is his own work. He has a right to a public trial. Americans accused of crime. He wrote the entire thing. "This proves they should be found innocent because she should not be blamed for a robbery without a public trial." And then he did another one, or started another one on the Fourth Amendment, right? This did take a couple days. We're playing the game, we're picking ideas, and then they're going to write. Julian, of which is one of the lower level students in the class, his job was to master the First Amendment. And then he writes his argument. "She should not be found guilty because she has the right to send a text to her friend. The First Amendment says freedom of speech is guaranteed. This proves they should be found innocent because the First Amendment allows her to send a text to her friend." Verbally, he also was able to add some more of his own ideas, which was very helpful to his speaking grade for this activity. And this is the last slide. So I actually will include these in my work as I show you. So just based on this work, without even getting to the game, we talked about prerequisite skills. They needed to know what the Bill of Rights were and which ones that they were assigned to, right? I'll show you the in-game teaching in the video. Progress monitoring, these PowerPoints, right? I can include these, I can add on, the template's already there, and ask them to add different amendments or just explain them in new ways, or even there's multiple parts of different amendments, so can they isolate, is this about an impartial jury, or is this about a speedy and public trial? Provides practice on a shared related objective. So I showed you those Common Core standards, but in general, they're all working on writing race paragraphs with text evidence. Time to play that master developmentally. We would never play the entire game in class. As you'll see, the game is spread up into like 7 fake days. And what I showed you in my example was the last day, and it takes about 10 minutes to get through a round, give or take. And you can also exclude things, skip things. We never actually did everything as a class, except when it was just maybe 3 of us that day, and they loved to play it. And so it's creative and sounds fun. I think it's creative and I think it's fun, but I'll expand on that in the video. Okay, so this is the Do I Have a Right game, and I've already set up things so that I wouldn't be doing this in class. So the office is fully upgraded and the staff is fully staffed.
My trial for stealing is about to begin. The judge says she'll decide the case herself because selecting a jury takes too much time. Do I have a right to a jury anyway? I'm on trial for stealing an old lady's purse. All of the jurors are old ladies who have had their purses stolen in the past. Do I have a right to different jurors? I was found guilty of vandalizing a store. I paid a big fine and spent 3 months in jail. Now a new judge says that wasn't enough and wants to put me on trial again. Do I have a right to stop the second trial?
I was arrested for vandalism. The judge set my bail at $150, but I want to use my money to buy some new sneakers. Do I have a right to a lower bail?
So a great part of this game is it also allows for people to come in who actually don't have the right to do stuff. And so allowing kids to see that in the moment and asking them that allows for in-game teaching. And then also just some conversation about exactly what makes sense and what doesn't. And also, as you see on the screen, there are other tools to help you check out what lawyers have which skills to make sure that you're actually matching things. So if kids forget stuff, there's in-game supports as well. But if those in-game supports are too much, I have them on the wall for my kids, and I have conversations with them. And again, they're not trying to master all 10 amendments. They have a couple that they're supposed to master. So as you can see, there's a lot of cute in-game things like petting the cat and the dog, and I think this game is creative already, but there's other resources that allow you to differentiate it and make it more creative. Like this newspaper, it really doesn't offer anything but some really interesting stories. It does offer explanations about some of the cases that you won. So if kids need a refresher, they can go through and read that. If you have some very high-level students, you can use this as its own resource in terms of having kids read or write or add on to what's being presented. Or you could not use this at all, right? You can set up the site already the way that you want it so that the lawyers are there, that the materials are there, so you don't have to spend time in class on things that aren't relevant. At the same time, to differentiate up, I can just give this and assign this to a student and they can have as much fun as they want going through things. The last thing I'm going to show you in this video is the end screen. So after you've won, they're going to congratulate you and then tell you how you've done. You can use this as data. Maybe your kids are so high level, they can do this independently, and then you're just collecting the end game results, and maybe that's what they're getting graded on. My kids love this game, and it also helps me as an educator, so I hope you do too.